My diabetic child phoned me in tears. My spouse explained that she'd removed his insulin device because he hadn't completed his tasks. He could retrieve it following supper. I responded, "Remain exactly where you are." Next, I contacted emergency services reporting child neglect and hurried back with law enforcement. When she attempted to explain to the authorities that it was merely discipline. I'm 34, working as a programmer. My boy Tyler is 9 years old. He received a diagnosis of type 1 diabetes at age 6. It's been 3 years of figuring out how to handle the condition. 3 years of nighttime monitoring. 3 years of calculating carbohydrates. 3 years of ensuring his insulin delivery system functions properly and his blood sugar sensor provides accurate readings. 3 years of understanding that a single error might prove fatal for him. My wife Angela is 32. We've been wedded for 11 years. She didn't used to behave this way. At the beginning of our marriage, she was compassionate, tolerant, excellent with Tyler during his infancy. That shifted gradually, so subtly that I failed to recognize it until things had escalated too far. It began with minor issues after Tyler's diagnosis. She'd become irritated during those late-night blood sugar checks, claim I was coddling him excessively, that he ought to figure out how to manage it independently. He was only 6. I'd remind her of his young age. She'd accuse me of being overly cautious. We'd quarrel. Afterward, she'd express regret, and the situation would stabilize temporarily. Then she began employing his diabetes for disciplinary purposes. If he neglected to tidy his space, she'd deny him sweets, which is acceptable. That's standard child rearing. But then matters worsened. She'd postpone his treats when his glucose levels were falling and he required quick carbohydrates to avoid hypoglycemia. Force him to hold off for half an hour as a penalty for being disrespectful. I'd discover it and become furious. She'd insist she was instilling lessons about repercussions, that he must comprehend that behaviors lead to outcomes. I warned her against utilizing a health issue as an educational method. You don't deny nourishment from a child with diabetes. She'd weep, claim she was doing her utmost, that raising a kid with special requirements was challenging, that I failed to value her efforts. I'd experience remorse, retreat from the confrontation, convince myself she was overwhelmed, that she'd improve, that such incidents wouldn't recur. They invariably did. A couple of months back, Tyler approached me discreetly, mentioned that his mother had promised if he earned an A on his mathematics exam, she'd return his device. I inquired what he meant by returning it. He explained she'd detached it that morning due to his unmade bed. She stated he could use it at school provided he vowed to improve. I became enraged. Located Angela in the cooking area. Demanded to know what on earth she was considering. She replied that he requires to develop accountability. I stated he's a 9-year-old with an illness that could end his life within hours absent insulin. She accused me of exaggeration, that the school's medical staff possessed insulin, that he'd manage for a short period, that I consistently undermined her authority as a parent. I declared that should she ever interfere with his health apparatus again, I'd depart. She gazed at me, questioned if I'd dismantle our household over such a matter. I affirmed I'd take any necessary steps to safeguard Tyler. She remained silent, simply departed. I believed that concluded the issue. I assumed she'd grasp the severity. The day before, I was at my job. Major demonstration for a customer. Telephone set to quiet in my trousers. Session extended 2 hours. Upon concluding, I discovered 7 unanswered calls from Tyler's line. My heart sank. Returned his call right away. He sobbed so intensely he struggled to speak. Father, please return home. I can't locate my device. Mother removed it. She refuses to return it. My levels are rising. The alarm continues sounding. I inquired about his mother's location. He said she's present but ignores him. She insisted I must wait till supper. Father, I'm unwell. I requested to converse with Angela. Tyler apparently passed her the device. She greeted me casually, as if all was normal. I demanded an explanation for the situation. She stated Tyler failed to perform his after-school duties. His bag lay on the ground. His footwear wasn't stored. Thus, I confiscated his device. He'll regain it post-meal and proper tidying. It's 4 p.m. mealtime is 6. He'll survive. I commanded her to restore the device immediately. She declined. You perpetually permit him to evade responsibility. He requires order. He requires penalties. I said, Angela, he's diabetic. She retorted that she's aware. You behave as though I'm ignorant of my child's ailment, that he won't perish in 2 hours. Cease the theatrics. I disconnected. Phoned emergency services. Informed them my spouse had seized my diabetic boy's insulin delivery system as discipline and refused to return it. That his glucose was elevating and she was denying access to vital medical gear. The dispatcher inquired if this constituted an urgent situation. I confirmed my son has type 1 diabetes without insulin access. Yes, this qualifies as urgent. She stated officers and medical transport were en route. Remain connected. I replied I couldn't. I must reach home. I'm 20 minutes distant. She urged, sir. Stay connected. I ended the call. Entered my vehicle. Sped at 80 in a 45 zone. Unconcerned. Redialed Tyler. Assured him, son, I'm en route. Authorities are arriving. You'll be all right. He said, Father, I'm frightened. I feel unsteady. I acknowledged. I'm deeply apologetic. This isn't acceptable. Your mother's actions aren't acceptable. Remain on the line with me. I maintained conversation throughout the journey. Inquired about his classes, his companions, the game he desired, anything to maintain his awareness and responsiveness. His speech grew softer, more disoriented. I accelerated further. Arrived at the driveway simultaneously with 2 patrol vehicles and emergency medical services. Rushed indoors. Tyler sat on the sofa, ashen, perspiring, trembling, sensor displaying 310 and increasing. His ongoing blood sugar tracker is distinct from his delivery system. It remains attached to his limb and displays real-time values. That's how we knew it reached 310. But lacking the delivery system, he lacked insulin to reduce it. I embraced him. The medical responders entered immediately after. They evaluated him promptly. Inquired about the device's location. Angela stood in the cooking space. She appeared stunned. Questioned what this was. Why summon law enforcement? I stated you seized a diabetic youngster's insulin device. That's child peril. She declared that's ludicrous. He's my offspring. I was imparting a lesson. You utterly exaggerated. One law enforcer requested confirmation she'd detached the youngster's insulin delivery. She admitted yes, but he'd lack it merely for 2.5 hours until supper. He wasn't facing death. This is preposterous. The enforcer inquired about the device's whereabouts. She said in her handbag. He directed her to obtain it. She paused. Declared this is ridiculous. You're handling me as the offender. I'm his parent. The enforcer reiterated. Madam, obtain the insulin delivery now. She fetched her bag. Extracted Tyler's device. Delivered it to the responder. He reconnected it to Tyler without delay. Began questioning Tyler. How are you? When did your mother remove this? Tyler said approximately 3:30. Post-school. Because I didn't store my bag. The responder glanced at Angela. Stated you removed a type 1 diabetic's insulin system for more than 60 minutes as penalty. She replied he must learn outcomes. He's perpetually so negligent. The responder addressed Madam. This youngster could have entered diabetic ketoacidosis. That's a health crisis. She countered, but he didn't. He's okay. Everyone's exaggerating. The enforcer asked if I wished to file charges. I regarded Tyler, my boy who remained trembling, pale, terrified. Affirmed yes, definitely. Angela's expression paled. Questioned if I'd have her detained. Over child rearing. I stated you denied essential medical apparatus from a youngster. That's not child rearing. That's mistreatment. She began weeping. Informed the enforcers I was spiteful. That our marriage faced issues. That I sought a pretext to depart. The enforcer clarified, Madam, this concerns child protection, not your union. We require you to accompany us. She declared I'm staying put. This is my residence. My boy. The enforcer announced you're detained for child peril. Commenced reciting her rights. She regarded me. Stated I can't fathom your proceeding with this. Tyler requires his parent. I replied Tyler requires someone who won't endanger his life to make a statement. She shrieked. Hurled every insult imaginable. The enforcers escorted her outside restrained. Tyler was transported to the medical facility for monitoring. His readings were elevated but not severe. The responders intervened timely. The emergency physician stated an additional hour would have altered the scenario drastically. Inquired about the events. I detailed all. She recorded notes. Stated she must notify authorities. I agreed. Child services arrived at the facility that evening. A lady named Sarah. Around 45. Gentle gaze but resolute tone. She posed questions to Tyler. He revealed everything. Regarding prior occasions. About mother seizing his device previously. About postponed treats. About being labeled exaggerated when he felt ill. Sarah documented it thoroughly. Then conversed with me. Inquired why I hadn't notified earlier. I explained I believed I could manage. That Angela would cease. That I avoided fracturing our household. She clarified you didn't fracture the household. Your spouse did by weaponizing your boy's health issue. I simply remained seated. She was correct. Sarah stated Tyler couldn't return if Angela resided there. I noted she's incarcerated. Sarah mentioned she'll post bail. Likely tonight. Pending legal resolution. Tyler requires secure surroundings. I affirmed he'll stay with me. I'll guarantee it. She mentioned we'd conduct residence inspections. Oversee the circumstances. Ensure his safety. I agreed to all requirements. Angela posted bail at midnight. Her sibling covered it. She phoned me 47 times within 2 hours. I ignored. She recorded messages. Sobbing. Yelling. Claiming I'd destroyed all. That she'd forfeit her boy. That child services would remove Tyler due to me. That this resulted from my exaggeration. I preserved every recording. Forwarded to my attorney. Initiated divorce proceedings the following day. Urgent custody session set for next week. My attorney described this as among the most straightforward cases he'd encountered. That no magistrate would permit unmonitored contact post this. That Angela faced legal accusations and possible imprisonment. Tyler resided with me at lodging for the week prior to the session. Refused to return home. Claimed the residence evoked memories of mother's shouts. Of fear. Of believing he might perish for failing to store his bag. I embraced him as he wept. Assured him none was his responsibility. That mother erred. That her actions were unacceptable. That he'd never face device removal again. The custody proceeding was intense. Angela appeared with her counsel. Attempted to portray herself as victimized. Claimed I was estranging Tyler from her. That I'd summoned authorities vindicatively. That she committed one error and I exploited it to ruin her bond with her boy. Her counsel contended that all guardians err. That this was magnified excessively. My counsel presented the recordings. Those where she yelled Tyler was exaggerating. That he was fine. That I demolished everything. Presented the emergency call where I pleaded for assistance. Presented Tyler's call to me amid tears and disorientation. The chamber fell quiet. I observed Angela's expression. She averted her gaze. Couldn't witness her exposure. Then he summoned the responder who attended. Requested description of Tyler's state upon arrival. The responder said the youngster was ashen. Sweaty. Disoriented. Glucose exceeded 300 and ascending. An extra hour sans treatment and we'd face DKA. Diabetic ketoacidosis. He clarified to the assembly what that entails. Sickness. Regurgitation. Accelerated respiration. Disorientation. Unconsciousness. Demise. All from insulin deficiency. He was questioned if this qualified as a health crisis. He affirmed unequivocally. Completely. No circumstance exists where denying insulin to a type 1 diabetic is secure. At all. For any duration. The counsel inquired if he'd witnessed similar incidents previously. He confirmed once. A caregiver unfamiliar with diabetes. We notified child services instantly. That youngster was extracted from the residence that evening. Then he summoned the emergency physician. The child services representative. Each testified regarding the peril Tyler faced. Regarding the behavioral pattern. Regarding mortality risk. Regarding how this wasn't isolated but a recurring use of his health for domination. The magistrate regarded Angela. Inquired, "Madam, do you comprehend that type 1 diabetes threatens life?" Angela affirmed yes. The magistrate demanded explanation for deeming it suitable to deny insulin to your boy. Angela explained, I merely desired him to acquire accountability. I didn't believe 2 hours would injure him. The magistrate retorted, you didn't consider. That's the core issue. That's the persistent motif here. You didn't consider your boy's security. You didn't consider the health hazards. You solely considered your desire for compliance. You prioritized your control over his survival. That's not child rearing. That's maltreatment. The magistrate proceeded. I've presided for 23 years. I've overseen numerous custody matters. Numerous guardians who erred. But this isn't an error. Errors are unintentional. This was intentional. You intentionally seized vital medical gear from a youngster. You intentionally disregarded his requests to restore it. You intentionally permitted his glucose to reach hazardous levels. And upon confrontation, you displayed no regret. You faulted others. I'm awarding complete custody to the father. You'll receive monitored contact weekly, awaiting your legal matters resolution. Upon conviction, you'll forfeit contact completely. Court-designated overseer exclusively. You'll cover the overseer. You'll participate in child-rearing courses. You'll engage in counseling. And violating any condition will result in permanent contact loss. Angela commenced wailing. Pleaded, please don't separate me from my boy. The magistrate clarified, you caused this yourself. This session concludes. Tyler and I returned home that day. To our residence. I gathered all Angela's belongings. Her sibling collected them. Angela was prohibited within 500 feet of the premises per the protection order issued during the session. She attempted breach twice. Authorities were summoned each time. She was detained again, bailed again. Her legal counsel advised cessation. The legal proceeding spanned 3 months. Angela entered not guilty, claimed she was simply correcting her child, that she intended no injury. The accuser presented specialist testimonies, hormone experts, diabetes instructors. All confirmed that denying insulin threatened life, that a youngster Tyler's age could succumb within hours sans it, that this constituted clear medical disregard and mistreatment. One specialist, a child hormone expert with 30 years practice, detailed to the panel what transpires when a type 1 diabetic lacks insulin. Your system can't handle glucose without it. The glucose accumulates in your circulation. Your system begins degrading fat for fuel alternatively. That generates ketones. Ketones are corrosive. They contaminate your circulation. Your blood turns acidic. Your systems begin failing. You enter unconsciousness. You perish. This sequence can occur in hours for a youngster. He was questioned how much time Tyler had before grave peril. He examined Tyler's health documents, his mass, his usual insulin requirements. He stated based on these elements and the glucose value of 310 at responder's arrival, Tyler possessed perhaps 2 additional hours before DKA onset, perhaps 3 if fortunate. Angela had seized the device at 3:30, stated he couldn't retrieve it until post 6 p.m. meal. That equated to at least 2.5 hours. Then she'd compel him to consume first, tidy afterward, perhaps another 30 to 45 minutes. He would have certainly entered DKA. Undoubtedly. The accuser inquired what would transpire if Tyler entered DKA at residence with a parent still denying the device. The expert stated that youngster would perish. Angela's counsel protested. Conjecture. The magistrate denied. The expert provides health specialist evidence. Respond to the inquiry. The expert stated absent prompt health action, a youngster in DKA will perish. If the parent persisted in denial, still rejecting the crisis, that youngster wouldn't obtain action timely. He would perish. The panel regarded Angela. She was weeping. Her counsel attempted recovery. Inquired if the expert could assert with absolute certainty that Tyler would have perished. The expert stated, I can assert with absolute certainty that a type 1 diabetic youngster sans insulin for that period would enter DKA. I can assert with absolute certainty that DKA threatens life. I can assert with absolute certainty that this parent's conduct created a life-threatening scenario. Whether the youngster would have perished hinges on unknowns. But the danger was unquestionably present. The panel conferred for 2 hours. Determined her culpable of child peril. She received 2 years supervision and required child-rearing sessions. Forfeited all custody. Tyler felt eased. I felt eased. She breached supervision within 6 months by attempting to collect Tyler from education. Incarcerated for 90 days. Released 8 months prior to now. Tyler is improving currently. We maintain a schedule. We maintain a schedule. I inspect his device nightly. Verify his glucose sensor is powered. Store urgent carbohydrates everywhere. He knows I'll never seize his health gear. That his well-being supersedes tasks. Supersedes correction. Supersedes all. He consults a counselor bi-weekly. Processing Angela's actions. The anxiety. The distress of believing your parent might permit your death to establish dominance. The counselor states he's adaptable. That he'll recover. But it requires duration. Angela dispatches correspondence. Tyler ignores them. I review them initially. They're identical. I'm remorseful. I erred. I adore you. I yearn for you. Please pardon me. The counselor states Tyler isn't prepared. Perhaps never. That's his decision. I endorse his choice. Individuals inquire how I missed the signs. How I remained with someone capable of this. Truthfully, it progressed slowly. Minor matters that expanded. Limit testing that evolved into limit violation. I believed I could control it. I believed I could shield Tyler while preserving our household. I erred. I ought to have departed the initial instance. She postponed his treat as penalty. The first instance she leveraged his diabetes. I ought to have recorded all and pursued legal action then. But I didn't. I attempted repair. To negotiate with her. To help her comprehend. You can't negotiate with someone who views your child's health as a control mechanism. Tyler inquired last week why mother acted so. Why she valued a bag on the floor over his survival. I lacked a satisfactory response. I still lack one. I explained sometimes individuals become so obsessed with authority that they overlook true priorities. That mother's desire for obedience surpassed safeguarding him. He remarked, that's foolish. I agreed, yes son. Truly is. He's flourishing now. His A1C values are the finest in years. His physician stated he's performing exceptionally. That our home approach is effective. I explained we merely adhere to the health regimen. Avoid using his well-being as leverage. The physician remarked, you'd be astonished how many guardians fail that. I wasn't astonished. Not any longer. I'm in relationships again. Not committed. A lady I encountered at Tyler's education. She's an instructor. Tolerant. Compassionate. She inquired about Tyler's device one day. I described diabetes. She remarked that must be difficult to oversee. I replied, it's not difficult when you prioritize your child's existence over correctness. She stated that ought to be the fundamental standard for guardianship. I replied, one would assume. Angela's supervision concludes in roughly 10 months. She'll seek contact again. My attorney states no magistrate will approve San's extensive counseling and evidence of transformation. That her legal history and supervision breach will heavily oppose her. Tyler states he rejects seeing her. I assured him that's fine. That he decides. That I'll back his wishes. Occasionally I ponder if I exaggerated that day. If summoning emergency was excessive. Then I recall Tyler's tone on the call. Terrified. Trembling. Disoriented. Imploring my return. Imploring his parent to restore his device. And I recognize I acted correctly. I'd repeat it. Every instance. My boy's existence isn't bargaining material. His well-being isn't penalty. His health gear isn't to be denied for conduct adjustment. These are fundamental truths. That I required authorities to uphold them is madness. That I needed to detain my spouse to shield my child is madness. But I'd repeat without pause. Tyler lives. He's secure. He'll never fear device seizure again. That's essential. Not Angela's emotions. Not her justifications. Not her defenses. My boy's existence. That's the focus. That's eternally the focus. Individuals claim I'm an excellent father. I don't sense like one. Excellent fathers prevent escalation. Excellent fathers detect alerts sooner. Excellent fathers safeguard their children pre-authority involvement. But I'm striving. I'm improving. I'm ensuring Tyler knows security. That his health outweighs tasks. Outweighs correction. Outweighs everything. That's my current capability. Improve. Remain alert. Be the guardian he merits. And guarantee no one ever weaponizes his diabetes again. Not his parent. Not anybody. Nevermore.